so excited about this episode with Kiana from The Tulip. I'm so happy you're here with me because I wanted to create this blog for women that don't know much about, like, you know, the magic egg and vaginas is like such a taboo to talk about. Yeah, it's insane. And being pregnant, I gotta admit, it was one of my fears. Like, it's the end of my sexuality. And I was like, everybody's scared the hell out of me. Why?
I think it's such a good question. Why do we have all this fear and shame and taboo, and particularly with birth and sexuality and what happens after? Because I think it's true, your identity changes and your relationship with your body absolutely changes, and there's so much fear around that, what's going to happen. And really your body is so resilient, and something we culturally and in our communities and as women and as friends need to start communicating with each other is that resiliency in the bodies and engaging that relationship with our sexuality after motherhood is an enormously beautiful and opening channel, and it's just how you engage it. It's not always a loss of libido and a change in your vagina, and it's, you know, I think there's a real fear that, like, I'm going to give birth and my vagina is going to feel different, or I'm not going to be able to, like, please my partner, or whatever it is.
Is that
there's
true?
So much. It always changes. And for some women, they'll say it went back to exactly how it was, and some women will say it didn't go back to how it was, but I have more sensation. Or some women, you know, it's really a dynamic relationship. Your body is dynamic, so if you work with that part of your body, I think it can be an even more rewarding and sensational experience. But you have to be familiar. You can't just you can't just disconnect, and that's where the lack of, I think, libido and the strange kind of shifting identity that happens post motherhood. And then you have things that come into play, like your hormones. Your prolactin can be a little bit of a depressant to the libido, and you think about that, like in nature, what was the purpose of that, right?
Yeah.
Your body doesn't necessarily want you to get pregnant immediately after, and so it's not trying to tell you to engage in intense and often sexual experience when you're breastfeeding a baby at every moment. You know,
Absolutely.
there's time for your body. For me, particularly as a birth worker and someone that works really closely with postpartum, I think there's an important time to honor what the body wants, what the body's doing, and not have a pressure on a mother to return to her sexuality how it was previously, but to engage it in a way that allows a new identity to emerge, and
to be okay with it, right?
Absolutely, to be okay, to take the pressure off.
Okay.
To say to your partner and to say to yourself, like, it's okay if it's not the same. It's going to be different, and it can be better if I take the initiative to explore that and to really open up. And I think the other thing that has happened is we sometimes really don't associate motherhood and sexuality, and so there can be an internal conflict.
There's a cut.
Yeah,
I feel.
Exactly.
You're absolutely right. Like, I feel there is a cut between, like, my life before and now motherhood. I have to behave a certain way. I shouldn't have sex this time and this and that. And I feel actually, for me, has been the opposite. I'm like, no, this is the time where I have to hear my vagina more, and I have to be like, we're gonna work on this together, because, like I was mentioning earlier, like, being pregnant, for me, it's been shocking to be in, like, social spaces, and people have a lot of taboos. People think it's the end of the world. Oh my God, you should have a C-section. Oh my God, you won't have a lot of sex later. And it's depressing. And I was like, I'm sorry guys, but that's not gonna be me. Because I feel, on the contrary, we're born to give birth, and we shouldn't speak, like, about our vaginas and what's gonna happen like a taboo. Like, it's also like an organ, it's a muscle. And I was so intrigued by it, and when I saw it, I saw your whole concept, and I saw the jade egg and all these things that will help you guys too, and you should know these tools, because I was concerned too. from hearing everybody like contaminating my mind, and I was like, this is terrible. Now I'm gonna be a mother. What am I gonna do? It's the end of the world. And I'm like, no. And then I have like a couple of friends who's like, no, you got this. Kegels, this and that. So what would you say for girls that are not well informed, or even women that already have kids and they thought like, well, I don't have enough sex, my vagina is not, I don't have that connection with my inner self. Like, how can we help them? You can, like, a message, or like, what can they do?
I think our primary sexual relationship is with ourselves.
Yes.
And so whenever you have a disconnect with that part of yourself, it's a disconnect with a part of yourself. Mm-hmm. And to re-engage it, you have to, it can happen for so many reasons. It can happen because the new dynamic of having a baby has caused a different shape within your relationship if you have a partnership. And so bringing the communication about that to the table, bringing communications about, you know, I'm up all night with the baby and I'm feeling this resentment and I don't know how to communicate about it, or I'm not feeling like my body is mine anymore. I'm nursing all the time, or maybe somebody had some like an episiotomy or a C-section, or they tore a little bit, and so there's a physical reason why they may not be feeling as much sensation, or they may just be feeling like, oh, this part of me is different. And it can be really, really intimidating. It can be, I know a lot of women who won't even look in the mirror after they've given birth because it's like, I don't want to see how I've changed. And though the change is not always physical, there is always change. Motherhood is an absolute initiation. And I believe it's an invitation to get to know yourself better. And so any of those moments where there's like, you can lean into something where like, you know, I'm not sexual anymore, or I don't have that relationship with myself, or my partner and I are just bored, or we've gotten into a rut of some kind, that is the invitation. Mm-hmm. That is the invitation to take that and say, why do I feel that way?
That's an
what's
opportunity, yes.
And then on a physical level, the reason I started the Tulip in the first place was to have tools and to have a conversation culturally around why it's an important thing to have a relationship always with this part of our body. It's a huge part of our identity as women, or even for people with vulvas. I really like to be inclusive of any gender identification. But it's so important because there's an amazing book by this woman, Naomi Wolf, and the book is named Vagina. And
I saw that's a great quotation on your website.
Yeah, it's on the website.
It's like the beginning of her website. I saw it and I was reading it to Michael, and we're like, that is pretty cool.
So when you look at the neural wiring between our brains and our pelvis is huge, and they go both directions. So it's not just the brain telling the vagina how to feel, the vagina can mediate our sense of how good we feel in the world. And when we have a really positive sexual relationship with ourselves, and thus our partner if we have one,
better orgasms too.
Better
like,
orgasms, and biochemical cascades of hormones that actually promote feeling powerful, promote feeling creative,
security,
promote health, promote security, promote just goodness, like health promoting benefits. So I think that's a really foundational aspect of something that has existed in many indigenous cultures, as we were talking about, but that has somehow been lost in ours. Like even in, I believe it's in France, after a woman gives birth, she automatically gets 15 visits to a pelvic floor physical therapist, somebody who's working internally hands-on to help her body respond and heal and do what's manually important so that it can continue to be healthy. And on that level, the physical level of the pelvic floor, it's so complex and it's such a dynamic space with so many muscle groupings and so many organs all in one place, and erectile tissue, and so there can be things that physically we can do to support that wanting to be touched and wanting to be stimulated.
That is what I want to know.
And that those things for me is
mommy.
like, I think number one, self-pleasuring or masturbation has to be on the menu for everybody, because if you don't know your own body, like that's not going to be something that your partner can provide to you.
Of course.
Vaginas have this taboo thing to them. They're supposed to feel a certain way. They're like very externalized. In my opinion, it's about our partner's pleasure. It's about how they look for somebody else. It's about how they feel for someone else. There's a lot of pressure to be a certain way, to have your pubic hair a certain way, to taste a certain way, to orgasmically and sexually respond a certain way.
Oh my God.
And that pressure continues, particularly after childbirth, because there's this fear like, ooh, what if
I had that.
a loose vagina? That whole thing makes me
I
so
asked
mad.
all my friends, and you know, in Latin culture, we're very like open. We give tips, and the grandma tips too, that it's really cool. But they're all like, "Don't worry, it becomes even better." I was like, and she has like 4 kids. My friend Bruna, she's amazing, and I'm like, "Really? Yeah, girl. It's called Kegels. I'll show you. I'm Kegeling right now." And I was like, "Okay, I gotta go deeper in this because, and people don't know this, you know."
Yeah. There's so much to say about it. So Kegels, absolutely. That's a huge tool for just restorative pelvic floor health and wellness. And I'll talk about that in a minute. What I was talking about with the masturbation is like starting to develop that conversation with your body and your sexual response. And then the other thing I really wanted to investigate in starting the Tulip was gathering traditional tools. Things that have been used culturally around the world that have really, really helped develop that relationship, but also helped the pelvic floor itself. Helped with circulation, helped with regenerating tissue, helped with familiarizing yourself with articulation or movement within the vagina, increasing sensation, things like that have been used like historically worldwide.
What would those tools be, and can I do them after I give birth?
Absolutely, and I highly recommend that.
Pre and postpartum?
The tools that I work with, but the 2 main ones besides hands-on therapy are using the jade Yoni Egg and doing Yoni steams. And the steams have been found historically in almost every continent on the earth, particularly for postpartum healing.
Yeah.
Because what's happening is it increases circulation, which increases the regeneration of the tissue. The circulation oxygenates everything. It helps remove cellular waste. It helps the lymph flow. It helps everything. Like circulation is the most health promoting thing I could think of having in the pelvic region. The other thing is the herbs, the herbal properties that you use within the steam can have antibacterial, antifungal properties, but they can also be restorative to tissues. So it's the balance of the plant medicine and then the heat therapy itself. It's just, and it helps postpartum for removing any uterine, like the sloughing off of the uterine lining, any excess blood, excess water left in there.
Amazing.
As the uterus is returning to its shape, it can really help speed that process up, which is really beneficial.
And you do that for like the 40 days postpartum?
Yeah, I would do it for sure for 40 days, a few times a week.
Oh,
and usually like half an hour, do it twice a week.
And you have it already, no? On your website.
Yeah,
That's
I do
really
have
cute.
an herbal blend.
I'm gonna get that. I'm gonna get everything.
And if you don't have a steam stool, I think the easiest way to do it is a steam stool, so you can just sit and relax. Definitely, get an old stool or go to a thrift store and cut a hole in it, or do something where you're just squatting over something for 20 minutes to 45 minutes where there's heat inducing. So I'm a huge fan of the steam. I think everyone should steam. It can help regulate cycles. It can just promote blood flow to the region, which can help your libido just by stimulating that blood flow in your body.
In Mexico, we do temazcal, so it's like my grandma was like, "Get your recipe ready," and I was like, "Okay." And my mom she's watching this, also like, "Get the herbs ready and this," and I'm like, "Where am I gonna get all this?" But it's a tradition, and obviously, like, as Latinos, we have all that culture from years, and that, I mean, it's there, and obviously it works.
Yes, exactly. It's a tradition for a reason, because it's stood the test of time over and over, and the women have carried it in the lineage that they know, like, this is something that is so helpful. And birth is such a transition. I mean, it's to have, I think the most valuable thing any mother can have is a community. and the wisdom of any elder, any woman who's gone through it, to say like, here are some amazing tools that I had that I want to share with you. So, in speaking of the tools, the other tool that I use is the jade egg, and there's so many reasons to use a jade egg. Pre-birth, I wouldn't necessarily use it during pregnancy, but I think postpartum particularly, because there can be, sometimes the tissues have stretched so much, or there can be some, like I tore after I gave birth, and I had some loss of sensation on the posterior side of my vagina, which is the back side. And working with the jade egg, this tool for proprioception, which is a scientific word for your body's capacity to feel itself internally. And so if you've lost sensation, or you're working with sensation, so you've never had an internal orgasm before, or you really want to develop and see where your body can take you, the egg's an amazing tool. We're so used to friction-based penetration.
Yeah.
We're also used to penetration that happens before we're fully aroused and lubricated,
yes.
which can really desensitize the interior of the vagina. And so when you have something that's like, you can barely feel, most women will put it in and not feel the egg at all. And as you work with it over time, you start to develop subtle sensation, which
because it's like, feels like it's numb inside.
Totally, absolutely. So that is an amazing quality of this tool. Is when you work with it the right way, it's not about tightening anything. It's not about, it can certainly bring resiliency and tone to the muscles, but I really think there's enough pressure for vaginas to be anything, and never am like, have a tight pussy. That's the opposite of what you want. You want a resilient, toned, sensitive vagina and pelvic floor, and that is a tool for that. So you get to work with, do different exercises with it, which can work on the tone aspect of it. You can do more awareness-based practices, meditations, or breath work, and the self-pleasuring with the egg I highly recommend, because it can start to cue you into places in you that are
like it's
sensitive.
more like behind versus just the clitoris.
Exactly, totally.
So it's deeper. I feel like that would be like more like a deeper orgasm, I guess.
Absolutely. It can help stimulate all the internal orgasmic centers, the G-spot, the cervical orgasm, the AFE zone, which basically your whole vagina can orgasm. It can be one big internal orgasm, but we have all these little zones that we've tried to like say, this has a lot of nerve endings, or this has a lot of nerve endings. But really, when you resensitize and really allow yourself to feel what's possible, the whole thing is very, very, very sensitive.
Wow.
So it's a tool for that, and it's just a tool for
Can
regular.
we show it?
Yeah.
Because I know many girls, when I said about we're going to do this, they had no idea.
Yeah. So it's a traditional, I'll give a little history. The jade egg is a traditional tool of the Taoist tradition. Mm-hmm. So I did not invent this. We did not invent this. We just saw a need for a really high quality egg. So the thing is your vaginal tissue is very absorbent. It's like your mouth, it's a mucous membrane. So anything you put in there,
it will obviously absorb.
So a lot of stones, first of all, are not hygienic.
So why jade and not quartz?
Really good question. You've probably seen quartz and rose quartz available and other stones. Jade's the traditional stone used in the Taoist practice. So we didn't want to appropriate and take it and make it our own. We wanted to pay homage to that and also understand why was jade used. And so in our investigation of it, jade is really hygienic, particularly this kind of jade. The nephrite jade is a very, very dense, almost non-porous surface. So it has less surface area for bacteria to grow on, which is really important.
Yes.
And you can also sterilize it, which other stones you can't. So you can boil jade. Jade forms in the earth at 6 times the heat of boiling water. So it can take boiling water, and it will be safe to use internally.
Okay.
Crystalline structures you can't; they'll fracture, and you might not see a microfracture, but you can have bacteria go in there. It can break.
Quartz is always like you can see it, and I'm like,
and they can break, and not usually internally, but if it drops out of you, it might shatter on the floor or something. So those are two of the kind of main reasons we chose it, and then it's also heavier. It's a really dense stone, like I said. So in using it, if you're standing up or if you're really working on the tone, it's like adding a weight. You don't flex your muscles with an empty hand. You use a weight, and that's exactly.
Yeah,
so,
it has a good weight. And then I saw that you have like a little hole, so it's like you put a cord or what?
you can use unwaxed unscented dental floss.
Okay.
And it helps for retrieval. There's also exercises that you can do with the floss that can allow you to do more resistance type training. So more sensitizing and also more like holding it in while you're pulling on it a little bit.
That's like level 3.
Yeah, and that's how it's a tool for feedback. The string itself, you can also hold it while you're pulling the egg up, pushing it down, and it shows you that it's moving even if you can't feel it. So there's a lot of reasons why the string is useful.
My friend told me something like that, and I'm like, wow, I think I have to work out down there a lot because I don't know if I can
I certainly could not when I first started. It's such a grouping of muscles that we're not familiar with. So even the pushing out for birth, this is a really cool pre-birth tool to learn how to push, because you can start to feel what muscles you need to activate to push something out, which is, we never engage that. At least I never really feel like,
I've
how do I push that?
But exploring, and then I'm like, that seems like a numb area, and this is so wonderful.
Yeah.
Now I wanted to ask you, I promise, last question, because I know I'm like, she's gonna stay here all day. Okay, so I had this conversation with my boyfriend, and we were like, okay, our gyno is like, so you're gonna help me on the birth, and you're gonna be there. Now, because of all these fears and taboos and things like that, and how men change after seeing their girlfriend giving birth or motherhood, is it a good idea to have him inside when I'm giving birth and he's gonna see everything, or not?
I think it's an interesting question, because historically women have always been the ones supporting each other through birth, and at the same time we live in a really dynamic, shifting culture with our stereotypical gender roles are changing very rapidly. As someone who's given birth and also attended a lot of births, I think, again, this is an invitation, an opportunity, and I understand the fear, oh my God, I'm going to see my partner's vagina stretching really big, and something might happen, with her anus as well, or she might poop, or all these things that are very natural body things. And at the same time, all of that may be real. Someone might have a visceral reaction to it, but somebody also might see you in the most intense, intensely powerful, courageous moment of your life, and they might completely change how they see you forever in such a positive way. They see your strength, and they see your courage, and they see your dedication to bringing your child into the world. And there's something so primal about birth. When a woman's in labor, if she can call to that place in herself that is she listens to her body and she tunes in, there's nothing as beautiful. Nothing as beautiful as I've ever seen in a birthing woman. So to invite your partner into that place and to support you, and also to invite him into that connection with you, to say I'm going to be really vulnerable, and I really want you to see me at my best and worst in this one moment, and will you go there with me? Will you try to allow this to be a passage for all of us, because we're bringing our baby into the world? So I think this invitation to bringing our male partners in is about really saying, I'm going to be really vulnerable, and I'm afraid that you might have this reaction to seeing my body
or
in certain ways.
Impression, he has seen me like this and seen my vagina. Would he be okay to have sex after?
Yeah, and that's something to talk about. If you feel that changes things, then that's something for us to talk about. That's where we get to get really rich and deep with it, and say let's explore my body in a new way. Let's explore your body in a new way. Let's not even explore penetration for the first little while after we have baby, and understand how we can create a very sensual, really elaborate sexual connection to each other. And what I think is really powerful in the moment of birth is sometimes, particularly for male partners, they won't know how to support. They're like, well, this is your thing. You're the one giving birth. Like, what do I do? This makes me nervous. You're screaming, or this is really intense, and they don't feel useful, and they don't feel like they have a part to play, so they don't know how to be.
Yeah.
And instead, giving the partner like an invitation, like, is an opportunity to bond and to create like the most powerful memory of your lifetime together. So he's not over here like, I don't know what to do and this is your thing. It's like, we can bring this baby into the world together. He can feel like he really supports you, and you can, when you look back on it, have that memory of him understanding and witnessing you in this very intense.
I'm like, Mariano, take a lot of notes right now.
But it is. I always say, like, birth is a rite of passage, and the birth itself prepares you to be a mother. It really does. It's so tremendous, and it requires so much of you. And so to invite your partner in to witness just that moment, I feel like it brings so much intimacy. And also, then he gets to see, well, your vagina just did that. Like, maybe I should not expect you to be able to have
sex right away.
Yeah, like intense penetration immediately. You know, it's like, okay, baby, you need to heal.
Yeah.
And like
give some TLC down there.
Yeah.
Let me get it back.
Yeah.
And that's
totally.
so cool. Oh my God, I'm so happy. Like, we had this chat because, I mean, I was one of those girls that feared motherhood, had so many taboos. Like I told you also, I feel like women to women, sometimes it's unfortunately we bring each other down. We see mothers already like, oh, you're the past, we're the present, and that is so sad. So I love what you do and embracing women, and thank you so much.
Thank you.